Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another one of our discipline dialogue sessions. It's great to see everyone here. Before we get started, I will put in the chat for anyone that would like to get professional growth points for attendance today. There is a link you can fill out or a form you can fill out with the link. And when we get done with all of our sessions here in the next week and a half or so, we'll send out professional growth points to anyone that attended. So by all means, if you want to fill it out, you are under no obligation though, if you don't want or don't need any of those professional growth points. So with that being said, I'll introduce myself. My name is Dr. Mark Schneider. I am the AVP of K-14 Academic Initiatives and Support with Ivy Tech. So at a statewide level, I help coordinate all the dual credit programming. I do not worry about marketing or enrollment or anything like that. I help build pathways and just think of like all the academic type stuff that goes with dual credit. That is in my wheelhouse at a statewide level. Joining me today is one of my colleagues from, I believe, the Richmond campus, if I am remembering correctly. We have Amanda. So Amanda, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself here?
Sure. Hi, my name is Amanda Sleet, and I'm the Department Chair for Art, Sciences, and Education at the Richmond campus. I also teach Psych 101 dual credit in one of our local high schools. And so I come from the K-12 world years ago and was a dual credit teacher for psychology. And so I am full-time on campus, but I do spend every morning teaching Psych 101 dual credit. So
Yeah, that's it's very awesome. I believe I know at least on our academic advisory committee, she's the only member who teaches a dual credit class and is a full-time faculty member. I'm not sure how many other we have statewide. I know we have some that do that, but not many. So Amanda has a great perspective here. I am just putting in the chat right now for future reference. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, but maybe we don't get to it or you have to leave or something like that, I am putting my email address in there. Amanda can put her email address in later on.
yep, I could do that.
Yeah, just feel free to reach out to us. Of course, the best person to reach out to for any of your questions that you might have after the session is your local program chair that's helping oversee your dual credit class. We like that to be a collaboration. Oftentimes, I know our program chairs learn a lot, especially from the pedagogy side of instruction from their dual credit instructors. And we like to, have a collaborative two-way relationship with that. But if you have any questions, Amanda's a great resource. I can help point you in the right direction. Also, the administrative stuff I can help answer as well. So with that being said, enough of me talking. Amanda, both from your perspective as a faculty member and also a dual credit instructor and your years of experience, what are some best practices that are out there that you've seen that maybe some of our dual credit instructors are not completely aware of that they could utilize to help improve that college experience in the classroom?
So one of the things that I would really suggest is to make sure that I know one of the things that I'll just kind of start with my experience when I first started out, looking at how can I make this content with high school students rigorous, because they're high school students, and so that's something to keep in mind. But we are holding them to expectations for the rigor of a college-going classroom. And so one of the probably two things that are really important that I think helps to kind of tackle this: how do I accommodate the fact that I have high school students, but I also have this rigorous content, college content that I'm going to have my students responsible for knowing. And so one really easy way to do this is to try to have as many professional memberships as possible. So like through your professional organization, so for psychology, like APA, we also have a Psi Beta membership here at the Richmond campus. Sometimes if you contact these organizations that maybe you're not a member of, they sometimes offer like a year free of membership. And that way you have access to all kinds of content, video, news, everything that would help supplement like besides the textbook, because from experience in the classroom that a textbook is just one source for how to teach students. So I think that that's one really easy way of, okay, how can I make sure that I'm keeping up to date with my content area? I'm using modern, updated research, especially like for psychology, looking at how can I continually incorporate these things that are current, that are relevant to students. So that's initially what I started doing, because I'm like, I want to be a part of every membership I can, but it's, can be costly. So sometimes they do offer educators discounts, and sometimes they just give you free 1 year. So that's something that I think is really important, and it helps to expose students to that type of reading, that critical thinking, reading that requires critical thinking, that they're going to need for whether they're going to a 4-year or a 2-year institution. The other really important thing, and if you've ever been to the Dual Credit Summit, maybe you have been to one of the workshops I did was on the empathetic syllabus. And, as high school teachers, you can be programmed like standards. We got to meet these standards. And in the college world, it's objectives, and meeting the objectives that are usually far less in number than standards. But it really, having the syllabus as detailed as possible for students, to get them to understand that the syllabus is like the contract between instructor and student, and that if they are going to college when they graduate from high school, that they have to become used to this document that holds these expectations. And one thing that I wish I would have done better my first few years of teaching dual credit is, instead of, high school students who are taking multiple dual credit classes are very overwhelmed, even if they are academically prepared for these courses. And so you can easily fall into things like, I need another week, I need an extension, I need this. And so we have this unique ability, and all dual credit teachers have this unique ability to really kind of pour into soft skills, because, high school students who are earning all of these dual credits are going to college with all of these credits, but they, there's some like, emotional, maybe things that aren't present there, just kind of developmentally speaking, where they are. So they still have things to learn, like that due dates are to be honored, and what to do with, time management. So those are things that I have found that are the most helpful, that sometimes that's not always like psychology related content. It's teaching them how to work with due dates, how to time manage when you have all these courses. So that might have been more than what you were asking for, Mark, but I think those are the two things that really have, from my personal experience, really helped me in the dual credit classroom.
No, those are all great answers. I will put something in the chat for everyone to utilize next academic year. We are working on a syllabi resource folder for all of our dual credit instructors. So in our template for each class. So in the past, we've just had, and you can find the generic template that we have for our syllabus for all of our courses. And alphabetically, we offer accounting 101 first, and I think like welding 278 is last, and everything in between kind of went off of that generic template. But there have been some issues that have popped up in the past, different grading scales for different programs, things like that. So we are creating, or in the process of creating, a course by course syllabus template for every dual credit class. There's still things that you'll have to modify, obviously your name, dates, things like that. The calendar will probably take the longest amount of time, but some of those pain points that have caused a little friction in the past in syllabi to be bounced back and forth. We're trying to address that proactively with this folder. We also often get statewide a question, why do we have to have a syllabus, which is required for all dual credit classes, but also on-campus classes. One of the best reasons we need to have one, depending on the course that's being offered, is we get oftentimes transfer questions. Student is going to this institution, maybe a private one, or an out-of-state institution where they don't have to take the dual credit that they've earned in college. The public institutions, that's a little different, but there are many cases where we'll get a request from a different institution to see a copy of the syllabus for the course that student was in. So we can pull that up quickly and then help get that transfer credit awarded. And also for the PD, the different membership groups and stuff that you were talking about, we do have some campuses have group memberships for their on-campus faculty and adjuncts. As a dual credit instructor, you're considered an adjunct instructor for that campus. We have 19 campuses, so each campus does it a little bit differently, but reach out to your local program chair and there might be something that you could get easy, free access to because of a campus membership. So all of that being said, Amanda, are there any professional development opportunities these instructors could potentially utilize either over the summer or next year? Of course, we have our K-14 summit we try to do in the spring every year, but sometimes campuses put on different things, or maybe those third-party groups that you talked about, sometimes they have really good summer workshops, things like that. Anything you know of that you could share out?
I don't know of, there's not one particular training that comes to mind, but something that is a perk of being a dual credit instructor, which is you would be considered an adjunct, is the resources that you have access to. So a lot of, so for example, if you utilize, and I really encourage my dual credit students to utilize database research, because it's not TikTok, it's not some social media platform that they really would like to try to rely on. So the nice thing about not only for students, but you as an instructor, is that there is some of that professional content already embedded into the modules. And something that's really nice is if you are familiar with the Ivy Tech library website, that they will post like little trainings that they offer each month. So for example, sometimes I will require my students to participate in some of the APA workshops because they're very focused with MLA and we use APA in psychology. So that is a really great resource that sometimes it's geared for students, and sometimes there are things that you can participate in for the as the instructor. So things that are taking place that month, you can add to your calendar. And if your students are using Canvas, and they can easily access those workshops. So that's a really great way of utilizing like professionally published content and professional development. And it's ongoing. So every month there are, multiple things going on. But something else I would say about content is that I really encourage, so like when I do the site visits, I always make sure that the teachers have names and contact information of the content experts. And so, as you're, going through a class and you're trying to figure out, different strategies or things that you can utilize, rely on those, your campus help. The people who are on campus are more than happy to provide resources. If you're like, I don't really know how to cover this objective, what's a good way of doing this? I'm hopeful that most of the faculty members will be happy to provide you anything and everything. The last thing we want is anyone to go into a course and just feel, unprepared. And I think if you ever get to the place where you're teaching a new section, a new course, that there is kind of like, okay, making sure that I'm covering content in a way that's acceptable for a college conducive atmosphere. But as dual credit instructors who are adjuncts, you have access to any of the workshops that are taking place, anything that the college is offering for professional development, you would have access and we there's some really great things that are very applicable to what you can incorporate into your classroom now.
Yeah, all lots of resources available. Just always reach out and we're happy to help out as best we can. And if we don't know the answer, we can always try to point you in the direction of someone else who might know. Um, kind of going off of that, with some of the different materials. I know, so we often get a question like, dual credit instructors would like to have the course shell that we have for our on-campus students or Ivy Online and stuff sometimes pulled into their dual credit course shell. We can't do that because of the copyright and material and the cost that's associated with that, with dual credit being free and our on-campus students paying dual credit. But this kind of touches upon some of the other things that you have mentioned. But do you know of any like OER or open educational resources that are available, or if anyone on the call here today has some great resources? I know this has popped up a lot this school year because of the textbook fee law that went into effect this school year. So, Amanda or anyone, do you have any resources
Well, yeah, dual credit instructors have access to the Commons. And so, that is a really good place to look if you're kind of, teaching a brand new course and you're like, I don't know what resources to use. So I have created a video on how to use Commons, and I share that video with my dual credit teachers. I'm happy to share that like with you, Mark, and maybe you can send it out.
Mhm.
But it's if you're wanting like a sample test, was like, what's a sample test for Psych 101 look like? The Commons is a place where anything, if you're not familiar with Commons, it's a place that you can go to that's connected within your Canvas course. Even if you aren't not, even if you're using a platform like Google Classroom, like, so if you're using Google Classroom in the high school and you're not having your dual credit students use the Canvas shell, you can still have access to the Commons where you can import different assignments, different any instructor who has dumped, for lack of better words, sample materials, sample assignments, sample assessments into the Commons. It's a common place for anyone who's looking for something to use. And so I'm happy to send that, but that's a really great resource, and you don't have to wonder, like, I wonder if someone else is using this, because if it's there, some other instructor at a different campus has created or is using that resource. And I created a video tutorial and I can share it with you, Mark, and you can share it.
Yeah.
And it just basically will just show you how to find Commons, the Commons area, how to import content. And it's very easy. And oftentimes dual credit instructors don't realize that they can use that to import anything related to your course.
Yeah, share that out and then I can send it out on the calendar invite to everyone so they have access, and I'll watch it, and if it's really good and if you don't mind, we might put it on our YouTube page for people to utilize. One time that someone described the Commons to me as kind of like teachers pay teachers,
Yeah,
kind of internally for good resources
that's
to,
a good way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah, just common free resources that are out there. Um, Linda
Well,
asked,
and then the other thing about the Commons is that sometimes you can see like a course that's built, and maybe there might be like some videos or some research materials that you're like, I had no clue this existed. And you can incorporate even that component. So it's you can find just single things, or if there are larger pieces that you're wanting to fill in the gaps for your course, then the Commons is a really great place for that.
um, Linda here asked, is there something from the Ivy Tech Commons if they can they pull it into their school's LMS system? I think they can if they're using Canvas, but it can be downloaded otherwise. Uh,
Yeah, I'm not so at Connersville High School, where I teach Psych 101 dual credit, their LMS is Google Classroom. And so I have not found an effective way for a linear move from Commons to Google Classroom, but I'll find stuff and I'll download it and then I'll just import it to the learning system. So I'm not sure if it's impossible. I don't know of a way of that happening.
Yeah, and then Greg here in the chat shared open resource through Rice University. So thank you, Greg, for that. I just clicked on it, and there are lots of options right there. So trying to talk and look at that at the same time. I'm gonna just talk so I don't get too distracted with all those great resources right there. But yeah, it does look really, really good for people to utilize.
And something, Mark, I'll add something that I have added in our module is, I mean, I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit talking about the hot topic.
Well, that's what I
But
was
I
going to
tried,
say. So yeah, go ahead.
okay, so I went ahead for social and behavioral sciences. I have just kind of unloaded all kinds of different resources. So, when in doubt, there might be something that you could pull. I mean, because besides the hot topics, there are some other, videos and trying to just provide some extra resources about content because, the textbook is just one tool. And, as educators, to provide relevant content that they can connect with increases their chance of learning. So, yeah, I'm looking at the chat and I'm getting some ideas and I'm like you, like I can talk and walk at the same time, but can I talk in a Zoom and look at these links?
Okay.
So, but there's some extra resources that are in the module for all of the, whether you're psychology, econ, poli-sci, etc.
I can walk and talk at the same time, but that's usually when I trip on the curb and fall. So you got to be a little careful with that. So yeah, and Nicole just put something in here as well. And the first thing that popped up talks about federalism. It's a former social studies teacher, instantly piqued my interest, but I am going to not jump into it yet. But I know what I'll be looking at this evening afterwards. So that's kind of all of our different talking points that we wanted to make sure we covered with the group before any Q&A. I'll let you think about any potential questions that you might have here. But for those of you who did join after we got started, I do want to put in the chat a Google form for you to fill out. If you'd like professional growth points, fill that Google form out. It's real quick, and then we can get those out to you here in a couple weeks once all of our discipline dialogue sessions have ended. So lots of things popping in the chat here. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask Amanda or the whole group or myself or anyone that is on the call today? Okay, well, hearing no questions, our emails are in the chat. If you do have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. Of course, we have free summer going on for high school students. They can take any and all college courses with Ivy Tech for free this summer. So keep that in mind. I'll let your students know about that. And then also, we always like to end these with just a thank you to all of our dual credit instructors. In many cases, if not almost all cases, dual credit instructors teach dual credit out of the goodness of their heart. It's an extra responsibility that's on top of their regular teaching profession, which is already loaded with ample amount of responsibilities. And you're doing all these extra things like syllabi submissions and professional development and site visits and coming here to this and doing all kinds of other things that are related to your dual credit class because of the benefit that your students are going to derive from that. And so that says a lot about you as a teacher and as a person, and we really appreciate all the things that you're doing for your dual credit students. We have almost 92,000 students across the state of Indiana. It's the largest dual credit program by about a factor of 4 across the country. And this year, I don't know if we got over 110 million. Last I saw, we were at 109 million in change in tuition savings for dual credit students this year. That's the Ivy Tech rate. So all of our classes transfer to four-year institutions here in the state. So it's really much higher. And that wouldn't be possible without our dual credit instructors. So thank you very much here. I see lots of different things popping up in the chat. Looks like it's about different OER materials. So I'll hit the stop recording button here in a second if no one has any questions. If anyone wants to share anything else real quick, you can do that. But
Mark,
thank
there
you.
is a question
Oh, thank you.
about what resources do you use for your English language learners?
Okay. Well, we don't have any specific ELL resources that are available. Sometimes some of the language or ELL questions, we do have different support resources that can be available on campus, but we usually, for the dual credit courses, have that go through the school just because of the additional resources that they have, which is usually a little bit more than what we're able to offer on top.
Well, and I'll also add this, and this is something that I've used before, especially when like about a year ago, I had my very first blind student. And so if you have your publisher information, if you reach out to the publisher, or even if you reach out to your K-14 liaison, they are happy to, like, I just ask for free things all the time. And a lot of times the publishers, because they want you to continue using their textbooks, they'll provide resources. So that could be an option. I've been able to get resources from our textbook reps. So if you talk to your K-14 person, they are probably more than happy to reach out to the textbook publisher. And I mean, every request I've ever made from our reps, they've been gracious enough to provide. So now, how extensive are those resources for the ELL? I'm not sure, but it wouldn't hurt to ask to see what's available.
Yeah, definitely in that line of thinking. I know that when they were talking about textbooks, because textbooks for our on-campus students are wrapped up into our tuition cost, that Braille is an option for students because we often have a lot of resources that are exclusively online with our textbooks. And then in the situations where we do have blind students, the Braille books are provided. So yeah, probably very similar line of thinking there with the ELL students. And with 92,000 dual credit students and 190,000 students across all of Ivy Tech, we do have a little bit of purchasing power to get some of those extra things. So yeah, just reach out to your local campus. They can help provide some additional resources. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. We look forward to a successful end of the school year. If you have any questions, just reach out. Thanks.
Oh, one more thing. I want to say one more thing. Okay, for anyone, for anyone in this content area, if you are like going through the PD module and you're like, I really want to see more of this, or I want to see more samples of this. I did drop my email, and I'm happy to send as many materials as you want. And if I don't have it, get you in contact with a content person. But if you ever, need additional support, or you're just like wanting ideas for content, I'm happy to help. Just let me know what you're looking for and how I can help you.
Amanda's great. And she also did our NACEP, which is our accrediting body. She did the Leadership Academy through there. So she is a dual credit expert in and out nationally too. So,
Yes.
keep that in mind. So, okay. Well, thank you all very much. Have a nice day.